What's up, YouTube? Zero here, and today I have an amazing Togekiss and Sylveon EX deck in Pokemon TCG Pocket. In this video, I'll go over the deck build that you can see on the left-hand side of the screen. I'll talk about each of these cards individually, and I'll talk about why this deck is absolutely amazing and why you should definitely be checking it out. Before we get into it, I do want to say, if you do enjoy this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more Pokemon TCG content. I do a bunch of other video games. I've been grinding Borderlands 4 a lot over the last few days, so be on the lookout for some Borderlands 4 videos. Without further ado, let's get into this deck of Togekiss and Sylveon EX. Let's start with Togekiss because Togekiss is going to be the damage dealer. It's absolutely amazing. So Togekiss, for 2 Psychic Energy, or Fairy, however you want to look at it, has Overdrive Smash for 60 damage. However, during your next turn, this Pokemon's Overdrive Smash attack does plus 60 damage. So as long as Togekiss is able to stay in that active slot, you deal 1 Overdrive Smash for 60 damage. The next turn, you're going to be dealing 120 damage, which is going to be pretty awesome. Definitely a great move for 2 Psychic Energy dealing 120 damage after you've dealt 1 Overdrive Smash. Togekiss can be found in the Space-Time Smackdown Palkia packs. Now, Cynthia is going to combine very well with Togekiss, so I want to talk about Cynthia in conjunction with Togekiss. I've utilized Cynthia before in my Garchomp decks, and Cynthia is an awesome card to pair with either Garchomp or Togekiss. So Cynthia, for those of you who don't know, during this turn, attacks used by your Garchomp or Togekiss do plus 50 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. That's absolutely awesome. In a Garchomp deck, Garchomp now goes from 100 damage to 150. In this deck, depending upon when you play it, Togekiss can either go from 60 damage to 110 damage, or if you have gotten off 1 Overdrive Smash the turn prior, you're now dealing 170 damage with your Togekiss. That's absolutely awesome and can one-hit KO a lot of very powerful Pokemon. It can even one-hit KO a lot of powerful Pokemon, even when they have a giant cape equipped. So that's really awesome. Once you get your Togekiss going, it's going to be really hard for your opponent to stop. So that's absolutely awesome, 170 damage, and you can get that potentially on 2 different turns because I do have 2 Cynthias in this deck. So just be aware that you may be able to deal 170 damage with your Togekiss on 2 turns. So that's really awesome. Very powerful card if you can get it going, which with Sylveon EX, it's not insanely hard to get Togekiss out onto the battlefield and going really quickly, and that's why being paired with Sylveon EX is an absolute must for a Togekiss deck. Sylveon EX is one of the best cards in the game. I'll talk about it in a second, but I do want to mention Cynthia can be found in the Space-Time Smackdown Palkia packs. But let's talk about Sylveon EX, who is another star, not just in this deck, but in Pokemon TCG Pocket right now. Sylveon EX is known for its ability. Sylveon EX is even placed in decks that don't run Psychic Energy because of its ability, Happy Ribbon. Now, Happy Ribbon, once during your turn, when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may draw 2 cards. So essentially, that's a free Professor's Research as soon as you evolve Eevee into Sylveon EX, which is really nice because then on that turn, you can play another supporter card, whether it's another Professor's Research, you can play a Cynthia, you could play a Cyrus if you need it, or a Lily. In this deck, really in any deck, you can play a supporter card on top of Sylveon, which is really awesome. And a lot of decks, even ones that don't run Psychic Energy, as I mentioned before, are running Sylveon just because of its ability. So it's an absolutely awesome ability to have. But having this ability in the context of this deck can really get you to your Togepi, your Rare Candy, and your Togekiss, so you can get Togekiss out into that active slot and attacking. It can also get you through your deck quicker so you can get Cynthia into your hand so you can deal that 170 damage. Sylveon EX also has an attack for 2 energy, 1 psychic, 1 colorless, is Fairy Wind for 70 damage. So not anything to write home about. It's okay, 70 damage. You're really looking to get Togekiss in that active slot, dealing 120 every turn after your first attack. And Sylveon EX can be found in the Eevee Grove packs. Now, I did mention them briefly already, but let's talk about Rare Candy. Rare Candy is an awesome card for any Stage 2 Pokemon. So in the context of this deck, Rare Candy, I do have 2 in this deck. Rare Candy, if Togepi has been on the playing field for at least 1 turn, and Rare Candy and Togekiss are in my hand, I can evolve right into Togekiss, skipping the Stage 1 evolution in this evolution line. So going right into Togekiss is nice. I just have to have had Togepi on the playing field for 1 turn and have a Rare Candy and Togekiss in my hand. But with the help of Sylveon EX, getting those rare candies aren't as hard as it may be in other decks. So that's what's really nice about having Sylveon EX. Rare Candy is a phenomenal card for any Stage 2 Pokemon. And Rare Candy can be found in the Celestial Guardians packs. Next, need to talk about Togepi, because you need Togepi to evolve into Togekiss. Togepi, nothing special. There are multiple Togepis in the game right now. Just note the one I'm utilizing. I'm utilizing the 1 Psychic Energy Pound Togepi that deals 20 damage. This is going to be found in the Space Time Smackdown packs. It really doesn't matter what Togepi you're playing. I just prefer this one to deal a little bit extra damage, but it really doesn't matter either way. It's going to be dealer's choice on that one. Choose which one you prefer. I'm just going with this Togepi right now. Next, Eevee. You need Eevee to evolve into Sylveon EX. The Eevee I'm utilizing, there are a bunch in the game right now. There's 6 or 7 Eevees in the game right now. The one I'm utilizing has for 1 colorless energy, Find a Friend. You put a random Pokemon from your deck into your hand. This is going to be great. You can draw through the deck a little bit quicker, getting Togepi, Togekiss, Sylveon EX, one of the Pokemon you may need. Find a Friend is an absolutely awesome move to get through to the Pokemon you need, getting them on the playing field. The name of the game in this deck is pretty straightforward. Get Togekiss into that active slot and let it just start pounding away with Overdrive Smash. So that's going to be pretty important for this deck. So getting the Pokemon from the deck to your hand as quickly as possible is going to be the name of the game. Eevee is going to help with that with Find a Friend. And this Eevee is going to be found in the Wisdom of Sea and Sky packs. Next, couple of cards that are in pretty much every deck. Pokeball, you put a random basic Pokemon from your deck into your hand. So essentially what Eevee's doing, but Pokeball is just a basic Pokemon. Eevee can put any random Pokemon into your hand. Next, Professor's Research, you draw 2 cards. Pretty straightforward, but really a necessity to get through your deck as quickly as possible, getting those cards into your hand as quickly as possible. Giant Cape is almost a necessity for a lot of Pokemon that have 140 HP. I know I don't run it in all of my decks that have Pokemon with 140 HP, although it can be really crucial. There are a lot of very good Pokemon that deal 150 damage or can get to 150 damage with a Red or a Giovanni. Giant Cape is going to put these Pokemon just out of reach. It's going to be really nice to have Giant Cape on your Togekiss for 160 HP, so you can potentially avoid that one-hit KO from one of the most popular Pokemon, Charizard, in the game right now that does deal 150 damage, Charizard EX. So I do like Giant Cape on my Togekiss to just barely put me out of that reach of some of the strong Pokemon. And because Charizard, the Charizard I'm talking about, has a pretty high HP, you can be able to really come close to KOing it, especially with Cynthia. Really great way to avoid the one-hit KO and then deal massive damage yourself to take out that Charizard. So I love Giant Cape here. Also helps Sylveon EX go from 140 to 160 and avoid some of those KOs that you could encounter otherwise if you don't have a Giant Cape. So I love Giant Cape in this deck. For those of you who don't know, the Pokemon that Giant Cape is attached to gets plus 20 HP. I kind of alluded to it. You go from 140 to 160 on your bigger Pokemon. So the Togekiss and Sylveon EX, both at 140, go to that 160. And Giant Cape is going to be found in these Space-Time Smackdown Dialga packs. Next, I have one of each of these. I have one with Lily and one Cyrus. So Lily, you heal 60 damage from one of your stage 2 Pokemon. This is going to allow Togekiss to stay in the battle longer. Togekiss is a stage 2 Pokemon. Lily heals up 60 damage from one of your stage 2 Pokemon. So Togekiss is going to be able to stay in the battle utilizing Lily after you've taken a little bit of damage. There are a decent amount of Pokemon that don't hit for a ton. Espeon EX hits for 80. Sylveon EX in this deck hits for 70. There are a lot of good Pokemon that are utilized a lot that don't hit for a ton of damage. So Lily is going to be great to keep Togekiss alive and in the battle a little bit longer against some of those Pokemon that don't deal a ton of damage. Of course, you're not going to be able to survive 2 hits from a Charizard, but you can survive 2 hits from a couple of Pokemon that do deal only 70 or 80 damage. Some of those massive Pokemon that deal a little bit of damage. In the video I'm playing right now, the Ho-Oh that only deals 80 damage, you're going to survive a couple of hits from the Ho-Oh. So just something to note that Lily is going to keep the survivability of Togekiss alive, so I really love a Lily in this deck. And Lily's going to be found in the Celestial Guardian Solgaleo packs. Last but not least in this deck, Cyrus. Cyrus, you switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon that has damage on it to the active spot. Togekiss does take a little bit to get going. Of course, you have to evolve into Togekiss. That means you need Rare Candy, and then you need Togekiss in your hand, and Togepi on the playing field for at least 1 turn. There's a potential that you're hitting with Sylveon EX for only 70 damage. As I mentioned earlier, you need to hit once with Overdrive Smash Togekiss for 60 damage before you can start dealing 120. So 60 damage from Togekiss or 70 damage from Sylveon EX is going to give your opponent an opportunity to retreat their Pokemon from the active slot to the bench to preserve that Pokemon. Maybe they're trying to wait for a healing agent that they have in their deck, or maybe they're just trying to avoid the KO by moving that Pokemon to the bench. Cyrus isn't going to allow your opponent to do so. Cyrus, you're going to be able, if you've already dealt damage to your opponent's Pokemon, to switch that Pokemon back into the active slot and finish them off. So I do love Cyrus as a part of this deck. It's not going to allow your opponent to retreat a weakened Pokemon, especially since, to get going, Sylveon EX and Togekiss are not going to be dealing 1-hit KO damage. They're going to be dealing damage that's going to be very easy to retreat from. So that's just something to note, is that Cyrus is going to be there to not allow your opponent to retreat their weakened Pokemon. So I do love Cyrus as a part of this deck. And Cyrus is going to be found in the Space-Time Smackdown Palkia packs. This is the deck. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. You have one strategy. Get Togekiss into that active slot and start attacking with Overdrive Smash so you can deal 120. When needed, you attach Cynthia to deal either 110 or 170 damage. It's going to allow you to go through a lot of very powerful Pokemon pretty quickly. And because of Sylveon, this deck is going to be expedited. You're going to have the Sylveons to draw those cards from your deck. You're going to have Professor's Research to draw those cards from your deck. You're going to have Pokeball and Eevee to get Pokemon from your deck to your hand. You're going to have a lot of different cards in this deck to get cards into your hand and onto the playing field. But the strategy, again, Togekiss in that active slot, hitting with Overdrive Smash. That doesn't mean that Sylveon EX can't hit. It hits for 70 if you do need it, and it can still go through Pokemon and hit them relatively quickly. Of course, for only 2 energy, you're hitting for 70. Not the ideal strategy, but can still win games. I have won games with it before. It's more likely that you're going to finish off a game with Togekiss. What's also nice about this deck, you can see in this video, I don't have to worry about Oricorio. Oricorio, Stonewall's EX Pokemon. Togekiss is here to easily go through Oricorio Electric to not have to worry about it. So that's another great aspect of this deck, is not having to worry about Oricorio. You don't even have to strategize around Oricorio because your strategy is a non-EX Pokemon, which is absolutely awesome. It's always great to come up with decks that are non-EX Pokemon based that hit for a lot of damage like this deck. Giant Cape is phenomenal, can get you out of some of those one-hit KO zones. Togekiss is really fun. This is a really fun deck. It can get you a lot of good wins. You can go up against some of the best decks in the game. And thanks to Sylveon EX and Professor's research, as well as Eevee and Pokeball, draw those cards out of your deck really quickly and implement your strategy really quickly. That's the name of the game. If you're able to implement your strategy quicker than your opponent, there's a good chance you're going to be able to win the match. So that's why Sylveon's here and why it pairs very well with Togekiss. You're going to be hitting really hard really quickly, and you're going to be one-hit KOing a lot of Pokemon, especially thanks to Cynthia. Cynthia is where you're going to one-hit KO a lot of very popular EX Pokemon, even when they have Giant Cape. You think of Giratina. Giratina has 150 HP. If you add in a Giant Cape, that's 170. Well, Togekiss, at its peak, can hit for 170 damage. Darkrai EX has 140 HP. With the Giant Cape has 160. So at its peak, Togekiss can one-hit KO a Darkrai EX. There are a lot of popular Pokemon Togekiss can run through, which is why I absolutely love Togekiss and I love this deck. But let me know in the comment section what you think of this deck. Have you utilized something similar? What do you think of Togekiss plus Cynthia in general? Is it a great combination? Is it one that you've utilized and liked? Or is it one that you've utilized and you kind of thrown to the side? Let me know what you think of the Togekiss Sylveon EX pairing. Is it a good pairing, or is there a better pairing for Togekiss? Of course, as I mentioned, Sylveon EX is in a lot of different decks. So there's a lot of pairings for Sylveon EX, but I'm interested to hear if you would pair Togekiss with a different Pokemon. What changes in this deck would you make? What cards would you substitute out and in to make this deck even better? Let me know in the comments section. If there's a Pokemon you'd like to see a deck revolved around, let me know in the comments section and I'll build that deck. Definitely want to hear from y'all as to which decks you'd like to hear. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Again, if you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more Pokemon TCG content. Thank you so much in advance for doing so. I really appreciate it. Definitely hit that thumbs up button. And until next time, peace.